could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You could have all you ever wanted, shoot the moon and reach for Mars. You know you could. Larger, larger than, bigger, bigger than, living hopes and dreams. Every boy and girl, higher, higher than, brighter, brighter than, all you wanted, and you know. Hey, you could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. Hey, you could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You can have all you ever wanted. Hopes and dreams, every boy. You can fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You can have all you ever wanted. You know you could.
Good morning and welcome back to the channel Grand Colombia, live from Armenia, and welcome to the Coffee Time Live, going on 5 years now, I believe, maybe more. Okay, so today the weather has been pretty nice, a little warm. It's going to stay a little warm for all those that are asking me until this El Nino goes away. But we've been within the normal range. Like right now it's 74 degrees. It's only been getting up into the high 70s or low 80s, so that's pretty good. One of the reasons it feels hot when the temperature doesn't really reflect it is the sun. And the sun is what drives most of the climate things that you see. And when we have coronal mass ejections that are larger than normal, it causes the radiation to be higher than normal. And we've been at the extreme level for a while because of that. And that, you know, when your skin's burning off, it feels pretty damn hot. So let's be careful out there. All right. Haven't been getting enough rain. We need more rain. First, I want to thank Renee. If you're on, Renee, thank you. She sent me a link, and it's the best tax information YouTube video, and it's only about 6 minutes long, that I've seen. I've never put any up before because they were either inaccurate or scattered, hard to follow, or old information. This one is current, it's concise, and it's accurate. The only thing is, there are provisions, there are exclusions that he doesn't go into, but of course not. Just like everywhere, you have your tax, and he builds the basic framework, and then you work from there. It doesn't mean that what he says is going to be your ultimate outcome, and I think he mentions that because your particular situation may have certain provisions or exclusions. But it's an awesome video. I'm going to see if I can put the link here. People are always asking me, and I don't ever want to say the way things change. My videos hang around for years, you know, so it could be bad information at some point. Well, let's see. Hopefully you'll be able to use that link, click on it or copy and paste. If you're moving here or if you live here, I highly recommend it. And you will see why most people that come here in retirement actually don't get caught up in the taxes. But there are ways to not get caught up in the tax, where if you're not aware of it, you will get caught up in the tax. And I had somebody say, yeah, but you're living there, you're cheating them. And you don't understand how taxes work in Colombia. We're all paying taxes, and the more we spend, the more we pay. It's called the EVA. It's the value added tax. It's 19% of everything you spend. The taxable incomes amount to about around, it fluctuates. Anywhere from 8 to 12% of the population actually has an income tax. The vast majority obviously don't, because you've got this 19% value added tax. So please stop writing me talking about whenever I say anything about taxes and not voluntarily want to jump into a category to pay when legally I don't have to. You know, I have people that write saying, well, you're just, you're cheating the country that you're living off of. I'm not living off them. I don't take anything from Colombia. I put money into Colombia. So just shut up about that. All right. Good information. I got an email, and we're going to make that our main topic today. Asking me about Manizales versus Bucaramanga. I'm familiar with both. They're two of my three favorite places in Colombia. So I decided to make it a long topic because I was going to respond to his email, and I realized I'd be writing a book. So why don't I just do it today in the video? Told him to tune in. So there's that. On the EVA, if you're tourist here, you can actually get all of your value-added tax back if you file the right papers. Nobody ever does, but you can do it, because if you're a tourist, you're not obligated to pay the tax. But at the point of purchase, they don't have the ability to not charge you. Okay, let's run through the chats here, and then we'll get on to some news articles, and then we'll do our main topic. Just so you know, I'm shooting for about a 30-minute show today. A few people said, well, your time zone, you're fine, but you're running into the kickoff time, and that's fine. So we'll shoot for 30 minutes. We'll see where we go. Okay, let's see. Juka, contribution, thank you very much. Rob, good morning from Fort Lauderdale. Good morning. Nicholas Zahar, hello from North Carolina. Turtle here. Good morning from Bucaramanga. Ron to the Z, hey from Las Vegas. Libby, good morning from Cuenca. You're back in Cuenca. Juka again, greetings from Finland. Mr. Anonymous, thank you for the contribution. I haven't had a chance to look because it just came in, but I'm quite sure that's probably Jerry. And thank you, Jerry. David Abitbol here in Armenia, loving it. Well, welcome. John Swicky, morning from Seattle. All I could think of is there's a song, Send Me to the Electric Chair. Mr. Sirica, please. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Coleman, hello from Dallas. Alejandra. Hello, Alejandra. Mike Jarvis, how you doing, Mike? Are you moved into your new place yet? He's moved back into, or he's soon will be moving back into Armenia. Nadik Mark 407, sales tax on all items you purchase. Exactly. Nicholas, that was me. Okay. Robert, buenos dias. Morning from Agua Chica, Cesar. Howard, thank you. Thank you very much. Rational 20, good morning from Central Florida. And meaning that was me who sent the email. Gotcha. Man, you got like 5 different names. Glad you showed up for it. Good morning from San Jose. Howdy. All right, let's get on with what we got. First, we got some news. I'll run through these quick. There's not a lot to say about them. Article in the paper, Condillo, the Eden for bird tourism. It's always in the news, and it's because either new species are found or something going on. But the bottom line is, the reason I put it up is the number one place in the world for different species is Colombia. And the crown jewel of Colombia for birding is right here in the coffee region. So there's that. And the next one, new markets. They're excited about this. Condillo will seek to reach Germany with organic and commercial products. There's this big meet. Well, they've had some meetings, and now the delegation from Germany is coming to Colombia. They're going to host them here, show them the farms, show them the way they're not using the pesticides and all of that. And they hope to have a whole new market for exports. And anything organic like that brings in a premium, and it's the way they grow it anyway. So it's the extra is almost like windfall profit. So that's all good. It's kind of a downer. With more than 100 cases, men are the most affected by individual chickenpox and Condillo. And what the headline doesn't say is there's about 240 cases because there's also women and children. This all happened pretty fast within a couple months. You can almost say it's epidemic. So we'll see where that goes. If you had chickenpox, will you get it again? I had it. All right. And this is a talk. Oh, let's see. We got Mike, all moved, still unpacking. Awesome. Mike, are you on the first floor or the second floor? I know somebody, Natalie, might want to rent from you. Don, hola from Panama. Howdy. My friend in Panama sorted out the problem, got the paper from the government, and is going to be leaving there this month. What? Mike Jarvis, moving out of that beautiful place. He spent most of his time coming up to Armenia anyway. Rob, back to the south of Armenia. And he's right next to my favorite barrio in the south. I mean, literally just like 2 streets away or a street away. Losing my voice again. All right, what do we got here next? Oh, yeah, this has been quite the talk. It's one of these lists that the best of, and who knows, and it's so subjective, but it is a point of pride here. Best breads in the world, and this is by Taste Atlas. Current ranking September 2023, so it's hot off the presses. And you'll see here, number 2 is Colombia, Pan de Bono. Tied in score for number 1. And Colombia also has, let's see, it's the top 75. They also have, where is it? Number 5, number 18, and number 46 on the list. Now, I have a problem with this list because if you look over at number 34, New York Bagels, number 34. Have you ever freaking had a New York bagel? They're not bagels. They are something way beyond. They're so delicious. You pull off an everything New York bagel, hot off the presses. Man, they are about as good as anything gets. But I happen to have the star of the show here, the Pan de Bono, cassava bread. So it's kind of a dough made out of yuca. They use yuca, flour, and cheese. Now this one is 2 days old. We're planning on my part. So they're not very good. You need these fresh. But I just want to show you, it's tough as hell now. It's like a piece of rubber. But if you look here, come on, there we go. You see, it's pretty aerated. But when it gets old, it's really tough. When it's fresh, the inside of it is really chewy. It's difficult to describe. And it's very similar to a buñuelo in a lot of ways, but which is not on this list. But they're definitely good. When they're fresh, they're awesome. Mike Jarvis, second floor and third floor. Awesome. Ron, I make pan de bono because it's gluten-free. Okay. I don't care about that stuff. And you've got a million people looking for gluten-free, but it doesn't really matter to those people. The people who have problems with gluten is such a small part of the population. It's almost like it's a fad. Yum. Yucca flour and cheese. That's all. Yep. Okay. What do we got here next? The imports, chicken pox, the bread. All right, we're to our main topic here. YouTube, here we go. Here we go. I'm running in the green, and YouTube says I'm not receiving enough to maintain smooth streaming, poor quality. I don't know what to say to you guys. I'm really sorry. I hope you're not really having problems. But it's YouTube. Let's get to the main topic. All right, first of all, I'm going to put up the email. All right, let's see if I can read it. Didn't realize it was going to be so small. Thank you for the honest information. I'm considering a move to Colombia. That's spelled with Colombi, and that's a point of contention. So you want to get a handle on that. You have people running around here. It says it's Colombia, not Columbia. All right. When I leave the U.S., I've sold everything. Will be traveling minimalistic style. I have a substantial U.S. Social Security income and pension, so I'll retain at least one U.S. bank for direct deposits. Smart guy. Charles Schwab. I'll retain a U.S. mailing address with a relative at least a couple of years. Doing it all right. My research had led me to think that Bucaramanga, Armenia, maybe Manizales would be good spots. Not only my favorite three, but the only three I would ever consider living in. There's a lot of Colombia I'm not particularly a fan of. I think you live in Armenia. I'm leaning towards Bucaramanga due to the climate, medical care cost, urban culture, etc. I'm concerned with the safety there due to the proximity with Venezuela. What can you tell me of Bucaramanga and Armenia? Well, we're actually going to do this about Bucaramanga and Manizales. Let me check the chats because I'm still getting this error message. Rob, Pandabonos, so popular here in South Florida. They're sold in all the 7-Elevens. Edward, you're loud and clear for me. Awesome. I spell it that way incorrectly all the time. Well, you don't want to make enemies here. They won't be enemies, but they don't feel good about it. If somebody doesn't have the interest in knowing at least how to spell the name, and the confusion comes in Spanish. Columbus name is actually Colon with 2 O's, and the Columbus is an English spelling of it. But anyway, let's get on with what we got here. Um, in a nutshell, I would describe Manizales as elite, educated, cliquish, but because of the way it's spread out, the way it's laid out, it's actually over the top of 7 mountain peaks. Um, Depending on where you lived, like I lived on 23, which is at the top of the main peak, where you got miles in one direction, miles in the other, relatively flat. Um, it feels more like a town. The population, depending on what you want to take into it, is basically between 4 and 500,000. Um, the population, Bucaramanga is the wealthiest city in Colombia. It's famous internationally. I'll talk about that in a bit. It's particularly known in Colombia and outside of Colombia as being a particularly well-run city. Great planning that's not top down, that includes the private sector. They take in information and they plan together instead of just deciding what you're going to need, like the Tranvia in Cuenca, which was a disaster for years, and it's, losing money. It was a vanity project. Well, they don't do those things there. When they did the airport and they did the highway construction, all of that, it was for future planning, and everybody had their input. And these things are known on the world stage, so it makes it an impressive, very impressive city. It's called the Little Hollywood. I get lots of reasons why, so I won't tell you why because I don't really know. And one of the reasons I've been told, I'm sure. So, climate. Manizales, pretty much always in the 70s. It's a few degrees cooler than Armenia. So if it's 74 here, it's probably 72, 71 degrees there. Bucaramanga runs between 10 and 15 degrees warmer. So if it's 70s there, it'll be 80s in Bucaramanga. I find Bucaramanga hot. Now, it's not hot all the time, but, and I was only there for 6 days and out walking a lot on those 6 days and got caught out, in the afternoon because I walked mostly the entire city. It's a big city. It was a lot of walking. And it was uncomfortably hot after 11 or say 12. And it didn't start to get comfortable again until about 4. And that's one of the things I don't like about it, although it's my 3rd favorite city in Colombia. Maybe my 2nd favorite, because I think Manizales, to me, is the perfect city for a guy who doesn't really like cities. It has everything modern, it's up to date, it's educated, it's got great infrastructure, but it feels small. Armenia, it's a pimple on the butt of those two places as it comes to being well laid out and a lot of things. I prefer Armenia because it's got the nicest people in Colombia, and that goes a long way for me. Plus, I've got history with it. But to me, number 1 city, Manizales. Number 2, Bucaramanga. Number 3, Armenia. But of the 3, I'm living in Armenia because I prefer it. And the downside of Bucaramanga to me, it just gets too hot. I don't like hot. Now, like most places, there are parts of the city where it stays relatively comfortable through the day. Let's see, what do we got? Oh, so I mentioned the size of Manizales, Bucaramanga. In the direct city itself, it's 600,000, but Giron and Florida Blanco and places like that have actually grown into it. And so it's really become a metropolitan area, and there's one 1.2 million people there. So it's a city, and it's a city basically in a flat area, sprawling. It's not on peaks. It's just a big old city with over 1 million people. If you like that, it will be great for you. I don't like cities, but most people do. I lost the stream 3 times very briefly, but came right back up. Damn. Thank you, YouTube. I'm mostly interested in Manizales for the slightly cooler climate. Buca has quality hospitals. Yet we'll talk about that. Worry about becoming second Medellin. Well, I'll mention that. Agree, people make a big difference. And the people in Manizales, even though I portray them as formal and on the cold side, for Colombia, they're formal, but they're not really on the cold side. That's as compared to Armenia. Armenia's coming, you can walk down the street and people approach you, they'll treat you like your family. They don't care about race or where you're from. They assume everybody's Colombian. They assume I'm Colombian until I open my mouth. So I like that. In Manizales, they're much more cliquish. And it's not because I was a gringo. If you're from Bogota and you're in Manizales, you're not from Manizales. It's cliquish like that. So let's see what else we got. I covered the climate. Rain, similar. Rentals. Now, prices are very similar, but where the advantage comes in for Bucaramanga is this place is big, and it's got hundreds of high rises. And so if you want to get an apartment that's on the higher end of the scale, upper middle class and above, there's much more to choose from, which makes prices for those very reasonable, maybe even less than in Manizales. If you get a upper middle class or high end in Manizales, because there's not a lot of them, that helps keeps that price up a little bit. So cost of living overall is very similar between the two. There's not a big, might be a little cheaper in Bucaramanga, more in Manizales, something else will offset it. But when it comes to rent, upper middle class and higher, it definitely goes to Bucaramanga, particularly if you're looking for penthouses, because they got zillions of them with all the high rises. Let's see. Advantage of Bucaramanga. You got an international airport there. You've got a Price Mart right in town, which is pretty awesome. And don't downplay that. That Price Mart is a very valuable thing. And a lot of people say, that's not important to me. I don't need. Yeah, but you're here for a while and you really start to appreciate it. The healthcare. Now, the healthcare is great in Manizales, so I don't want you to misunderstand this. However, there's some facilities in Bucaramanga that are world class. And from what I understand, their heart hospital, it doesn't get better than that. You'll have people from other countries come into that hospital. Turtle mentioned it also. I remember this back when I did this series of videos and I was doing some research, and I remember, come on, turn off, there we go. I remember seeing it back then. Now, in Manizales, you have access to a Price Mart, but it's 45 minutes you have to go to Pereira. It's there, you have access. It's just not as convenient. You're not going to jump in a taxi, get there in a few minutes. You're going to most likely jump on the bus, get to the terminal, take taxi to the Price Mart, and then go back through it. You also have an airport, but not in Manizales. The one in Manizales is in country only, and half the time you're not going to make flights because you're up on a mountain, cloud layer drops down in the airport, no visibility. It's an extremely short runway and they can't extend it because you'll drop off a cliff. It's one of the hairiest airports for pilots there is. It's an airport not so usable, and it's only in country. So if you want to go to international airport, again, you're going to make that 45-minute plus trip to the airport in Pereira. So it's not like you don't have access to it, but you got to be patient to get there. Let me show you. Let's see if I can talk through. Oh, it says my error is gone. Well, that's good. Coleman, Buca has two really nice golf courses. Bucaramanga. Yeah. You have one in Pereira, as I recall. You have one here in Armenia, but I believe that the two in Bucaramanga are pretty stellar. Again, I haven't looked those up since I did the golfing video a few years ago. So I don't exactly remember, but okay, let me show you this little thing I put together. It's got some pictures. Okay, this is the thumbnail. That's Bucaramanga from one view. Bucaramanga with Colombia's lowest unemployment rate and with per capita income at 170% of the national average, is on the threshold of attaining high income status as defined by the World Bank. This comes from a report that I looked up and I skimmed through it. It's 100 or so pages put together by the World Bank, and it went through the 750 cities throughout the world to determine various things about them. And Manizales is held up as an example, along with 5 other cities, as being top of the list for various things. Out of 750 cities, I'm sorry, not Manizales, Bucaramanga is held up as an example for how you run a city for now and into the future. So that's saying a lot. Manizales wasn't on that list, but Manizales didn't make the list because it's so small, not because it failed at anything. And here, this is a chart, and you can tell by the light green, it's the contribution to Colombia's GDP. And the contribution to Colombia's GDP is almost 3 times more than Bogota, or GDP growth, sorry. And again, another shot of Bucaramanga. High-rise city. It's crazy. Now this is Manizales. This is at the top. That was the old church there. This is another view from Manizales. The top is over to the left where you see those high rises. Manizales is a city that goes up and down the mountains. Like I said, I lived up on the top, and it's on the crest. I could go out and walk 2-3 hours and not see the same thing, and not have to climb up and down a hill. So that was pretty cool. Bucaramanga, except for some residential areas that go up, one side of a mountain, the rest of it's all flat. And I can attest to that because, as I said, I walked most of it. Again, another shot of Manizales. If you look, you'll see a church steeple. That's an old church. It's very famous throughout South America. So that's pretty cool. And is that the last one? Yeah, it's the last one. I will also say, when it comes to shopping malls, there's 3 big modern shopping malls in Manizales, and then there's 5 or 6 smaller, older, they're called shopping malls, but we wouldn't really think about it. It's not like they're 3-story, amazing with hundreds of places. There's no shortage of shopping malls, but the three are all along that top area that I mentioned. That's a fantastic place to live. In Bucaramanga, they've got 7 big malls. I believe it's 7, and then a number of smaller ones that probably add up a total of maybe 10 or 15 malls. But the thing about Bucaramanga is they have, depending on what list you look at, they have either the best mall in South America or the 3rd best mall in South America. It's in an area called Cachique. It's on the southeast part of the city, and great area. Very well, this mall has a Holiday Inn built into it. It's you can go out on the bow. This area, it looks like the bow of a ship. That's an adult food court, so they mixed drinks, beer, and really high-end restaurants. And you can grab yourself a beer, and you look down, and there's a soccer field down there, and you can watch the game from up on high with a drink in your hand. So that's all pretty cool. So as far as which is which, the nice thing about places like here is they're distinctly different. They're great in some ways, not so great in other ways. Like Medellin, it's an amazing city, and it's definitely worth a visit. There is no way on earth I'd ever want to live there. Too much traffic, pollution, crime is growing, but it's been kind of, it's not Colombia, and I've said this before, and you said something about not wanting to ruin it, like Medellin. Well, the thing is, in Bucaramanga, there's like almost no gringos. Foreigners don't really go there. And Manizales is pretty much the same. There's more now in Armenia than there is in Manizales or in Bucaramanga. And that's probably my fault. And I tell people, Manizales is a superior city. Bucaramanga it's got so much going for it. I love those places. And I won't say that about Bogota or Medellin and Cali's and Armpit. I'm just not a fan of most of the cities in Colombia because I'm not a fan of cities in general. But these are special places. And I guess, because I happen to live in what I consider the best for me, you got a lot of people gravitating towards here. I just hope they behave. Fortunately, it's not an influx of thousands. But I doubt it's going to be an issue in Bucaramanga in our lifetime. Nicholas and Howard, thank you both. Got a thank you from Nicholas and love the show from Howard. I really appreciate it. Let's see. Problem was on your end. We'd all be seeing the same thing. It's definitely, I can tell when it's on my end. If it were on my end, I would tell you guys. I didn't used to know that, but I set up the software now so I can see exactly what's going on. I know when it's on YouTube's end. They fooled me before, but they don't anymore. NB90, buenos dias. How you doing? Coleman, Buca has oil money. They do, but they've expanded in a lot of other areas. That was part of that planning and part of why they commented 2 things about that in that World Bank report. One is that they took the profit from the oil money, the portion that would be going back like as a lease to the government. They've used that money for people. It's actually been put back in specifically, and they listed certain things of how it went back for the people instead of just went into the government and got peed away for nothing. So they listed that. The other thing that they mentioned is that they didn't just sit there and rely on oil. They uh, design their newer infrastructure specifically to support other industries, which occurred, which is where it's taken its second boom. First boom, oil. It's a number of years past that now, and they're into their second boom, which is a very diversified economy. Which city has more people that speak at least some English? Um, I won't say that there's one that has more than the others. You will run into people. English is part of the curriculum here in high school, in university generally. And some people, if they have interest in it, they'll pursue it and they'll want to practice with you. Most people don't really care about it. It's kind of like languages in the US back when they would require you had to choose. When I was in school, I had to choose between Latin, French, Spanish, and German. And I took French and then changed to Latin. Latin served me well the rest of my life. Any of those other languages just would have been wasted. So back then, people took the languages, took one because they had to, it was a requirement. But most people could care less about it, and they would do just enough to pass. And by the time they were done, they might have known a couple words more than when they began. And so you get the same thing here in Colombia. It might be a requirement, doesn't mean they can care about it. And so you get a very small portion that do. You also get a certain amount of people that will travel. They'll go to Spain, they'll go to the United States, they'll go to Canada, they'll go to England, and they'll come back and they'll have some language ability, and they'll seek you out if they hear you. I run into this fair amount of times where somebody hears me talk and they come over because they just want to be friendly and say, "Oh, I lived in the United States for a while," and they want taxi drivers especially. They really want to talk about where they lived and where you're from. So you get that, but it's small. It's few and far between, and I won't say it's any more or less in one place than the other. Good question on English. I want to summarize, and I want language to be part of it, so don't let me forget that. Manizales, more likely. I won't say that. I really, I didn't. It felt no different to me in either place. Is street food a thing in these locations? It's Colombia. It's a thing. it's definitely a thing. Bucaramanga in the 19th century, there was this German guy. Other immigrants followed. He was quite a character, hired local campesinos on semi-feudal system to work on his farms. Yeah, there's pretty amazing history that goes back a long way, including back when there was a race of people there that were tall, blonde-haired, blue-eyed. Prior to the Germans, this is years before anybody from Europe known were there. One of the theories is just like the Vikings went to the North America, and nobody knew about that for years, really till just recently. They say the same thing may have occurred here. You might have had Vikings end up settling in Bucaramanga. I don't know. It's pretty far inland to go. You would think they'd be more on the coast, but who knows? A lot of things can happen over hundreds of years. There's very few English-speaking people, neither Bucaramanga or Manizales. Whoops, let me see. I rarely see gringos in Bucaramanga. I lived in Manizales for 5 years, and also next to zero English-speaking humanoids. Yeah, exactly. Thank you for supporting. I only tell you what I know to be true to me. Yeah, I don't make this stuff up. I actually like Kali, but why are you watching my channel if you like Kali? But it all depends on what part you're in. There are very many nice places there. There is, and I say that there are some nice areas in every city. There's nice areas. In Detroit, there's some nice areas, but it's hot. It smells. They throw the garbage in the street. there's dogs that run loose, and it's one of the few places in Colombia where it's still like that. It's overwhelmed by street urchin criminal type. It's just not for me. That would help in getting my Spanish up to speed. Also, new translation earbuds are out now that instantly translate. Yeah, I actually just watched a video on that, and I didn't see it work any better than Google Translate on your phone. You can do the exact same thing with your phone. The earbuds, it's only useful really for the other person. You don't really want to go up to strangers and, keep swapping out earbuds. So I was a little confused over that. It's not an instant translation. They'll say what they're going to say, and then it plays back to you in English. So it really operates like Google Translate. But the thing is, if you really want to learn Spanish, you want to have a situation like that. The Spanish that I know only came about by being forced into it. Trying to learn it didn't work for me. Okay. If you like Florida heat, Agua Chica is a place for you. Yeah. Turtle, I've seen a Ferrari zipping around town besides the more mundane Mercedes, BMWs, etc. Yeah, that's the thing. In Manizales, in Bucaramanga, you'll see a lot of high-end cars. You'll even see them here in Armenia, but to a lesser extent. It's quite common there. Sebastian, I love Armenia. Yeah, me too. But I'm a blue collar kind of guy, and Armenia is a blue collar town. It doesn't have the pretense. The thing in Bucaramanga, I started to mention this and I broke off from it. I'm running over here. Is that the people there remind me of the United States. Their heads down, they're on their way to do something. And you actually kind of have to stop them and interrupt their day to, ask a question or something. And they'll be very nice, but you're interrupting them. Where it's so different here, you walk down the street and they're more likely to interrupt you. It's almost the workaholic atmosphere. And being a workaholic from the age of 10 years old until I got sick and couldn't work anymore, I'm grateful to have been forced into the pace that they have here. I absolutely love it. I love living day after day without an ounce of stress. And it was so unique to me. But Turtle, I'm still here. Tall, blonde hair, and blue eyes. Yeah, good point. So many people from Cali moved to USA through Mexico. Yeah, because it's not a great place to live, even for Colombians. In some countries, almost everybody speaks English as a second language, especially Sweden. Well, that's true. Europe in particular, because English is the international language. It is the international language. Every pilot from every country has to learn English because the language used at all airports is English. So, and there's a number of other things too. So, it's the being the international language. Plus, in Europe, what you have is you've got small countries that all border each other, and so there's a lot of travel through different countries. So there's incentive to learn a language. Like maybe you're in Germany, but you like to go to the south of France on vacation. Well, at some point you're going to learn French. And it's the same with Sweden and all of those. So they become adept at learning languages because they're doing that. So they got that language learning muscle working for them. The United States, it's like, where are we going to go? We're going to go to Canada. Well, they speak English, unless you go to Montreal. and it's so spread out that you can drive for days and you still haven't left. So, the United States is somewhat isolated. I love these Renault 4 Classic cars. Yeah. Stress-free is a big plus. That's most of Colombia. I won't say that's necessarily the case in Bogota or Medellin. One of the downsides, I mean, like in Medellin, traffic's a problem much of the time, and it's motorcycles that come right up on the sidewalk. I mean, you have to have, if you're out walking around, you have to keep your eyes open. Is it playing? Is what playing? I don't know. Okay, so last call on questions. I'm running over what I wanted to get out early today. So let's see if we can wrap it up in the next few minutes. Any other questions on Bucaramanga or Manizales? Mine is silent and not moving. Your video says it's streaming great. Even YouTube says they're streaming great. And when it's not, I have people dropping out of it, and I'm still having people jump in. Have you visited Hotel Colonial in Manizales looking for a place to stay for a $500 to $600 monthly rate? I don't know that hotel in particular, at least I can't think of it, but I've stayed in some that are really nice, that would probably fit that or maybe even less. Send me an email and I'll look up in my booking and I'll send you the name of a couple that are in great locations, price is good, really nice. One of them's got a hot tub, but right in the middle of the bedroom. It's pretty awesome. Manizales has the same weather as Armenia. No, it's not the same, but it's similar. It's not that far off. A lot of people think it's a lot colder, but it's only typically a few degrees. I live there. I've lived here. I know this. It's not just from the internet. I know this to be true. It is cooler on average, but not very much. You have local people like here. If you say Manizales, one of the first things they'll say is, "Oh, it's much colder there." But you have to understand, when you live with a temperature variation that's almost non-existent, that every day it varies, maybe 15 degrees from morning to night. A couple degrees, they notice it. Here, you'll see it could be 74 degrees, they're okay. If it's 72, they're putting on winter coats. And so when they say it's cold, it's like, okay, from their point of view, when temperatures don't vary, they're more sensitive to it. But I'm from New York, where in the summer you're like 105, in the winter you're 20 below. So a 2-degree temperature variation doesn't even register. But it can be more. It can be 3 or 4 sometimes. Weather's not an absolute thing, but in general, it's very similar. The biggest difference to me is the rain is a little more predictable in Armenia and tends to happen more in the afternoon and the evening, where in Manizales it happens whenever the hell it feels like it. And oh my God, some of the strongest downpours I've ever been in my life happened when I was in Manizales. Fernando Botero, R.I.P. Oh, the artist. Didn't know. Elevation sucks in Manizales. See, I wouldn't say that. It's about 7,200 degrees, and the altitude where serious altitude sickness, not the 2 or 3 day thing, but where it's serious for your health, is actually over 8,000 feet. So the only time the altitude is going to be bad is in a situation where you have some other health issue, and that can come into play. And Turtle, for example, because of his heart situation, he need to go to a lower temperature. Otherwise, he'd probably still be living in Manizales. I think he's happy where he is now that he's been there. But, you know, that just happens to be a fact of life. You just can't live at a higher elevation if you got health issues. But when it comes to, if you don't have health issues, you won't have health issues because of the 7,000 feet. It's kind of a misconception about altitude. All right, I gotta end it here. What do we got here? Yes, too old. What's too old? Alejandro, what are you talking about? What's too old? Piedras de Mani, nicest B&B in Manizales. Yeah, that's actually one of them that I would mention. I couldn't remember the name of it. It's awesome. Got a nice little balcony. Sit out there and have a little drink and pneumonia. Oh, too cold. You were saying pneumonia. It's not true. As I said, you're from Bogota. Bogota is way colder. Way colder. Bogota, it's got some wicked cold at night, especially when the wind's blowing. Manizales seems wetter than Armenia. The rainfall is actually very similar. It's just a matter of when it comes. It's more predictable here. Therefore, if you're here, you kind of live in it. You kind of plan your life accordingly. And so you don't necessarily get rained on. Where Manizales, you go out, it looks perfectly fine. You're walking down the street, next thing you know, there's no more, it's just black clouds and it's dumping like a fire hose on your head. We don't really get that here. Thank you for all you do. You're welcome. I'm happy to do it. I enjoy it. All right, we got to end it here. Oh, I'm talking about Botero's dead. Oh, gotcha. Oh, he died of pneumonia. Pneumonia. Okay. All right, we're gonna end it here. Thank you all, Alejandro. Sorry about that. Thank you. Feliz Dia de Amor and Amistad, friends and lovers. This is their Valentine's Day. Was it today or yesterday? I don't know. It's this weekend. Any quick thoughts on the volcano near Manizales? Any issues with that potentially? Manizales is a ways away. You would get, if it really blew, you would get some of the ash, you'd get some rocks falling. You duck for cover, put on a mask for a couple days. But it's not like when I was looking up volcano, I couldn't find any plan for evacuation like in Ibagué. There's plans to evacuate. I didn't really see that for Manizales. And you can see the volcano, but it's quite a ways away. And the last time it blew off, pretty big, and it wiped out 25,000 people. It didn't really do anything in Manizales, so not very likely. John Swicky yesterday. Okay, thank you. I had a few people message me yesterday, so I thought maybe message, but I don't know. I don't follow those things. Does Buca have earthquakes like Armenia? Armenia doesn't really have much for earthquakes, but there's earthquakes. You feel them all over Colombia. So in Bucaramanga, you will feel earthquakes, but you feel them all over the United States. You feel them everywhere. Earthquakes are everywhere. So we'll have earthquakes, some very low. Yeah, we're running up on an hour. Some very low strength earthquakes you will feel here that you wouldn't feel elsewhere, because feeling them has a lot to do with the depth of the earthquake and the composition. And the Andes Mountains tends to extend the feel of earthquakes. It like resonates through it. So you have that. As far as earthquakes, is Bucaramanga gonna open up into a pit and drop into it? It's pretty unlikely. There is a fault line not too far from Bucaramanga, but far enough. you would have to have, well, I'll give you an example. In this last earthquake of 6 point something, very close to Bogota, there was no damage. There was no damage. 6.9 was it? 6.2 or 6.9, and there was no damage. One person died, but that's because they climbed out on their balcony out of panic and dropped a bunch of stories. It was a pretty sad situation. 5.1 a few days ago. Yeah, you feel them every once in a while. The thing is, if you live in a high rise, like I live up on the top, I feel everything. There was a 3 point something out on the coast, and it was actually comforting. The building had this gentle swaying. It was like, this is awesome, you know. But I talk to people that aren't up in the high rise. They're out walking around and nobody felt it. So yeah, you're gonna feel them. But in the earthquake, the Armenia earthquake in 1999, go look up my video about that earthquake, because that thing has been put so out of character, and people have this idea that Armenia has earthquakes, and it had an earthquake, and the frequency of that particular fault is about every 4,000 years. But if it weren't for the lousy construction back then of buildings in the south, it wouldn't have mattered. You had a lot of lost lives, but it was because of building constructions. In the north, there were over 100 buildings of 4 stories or more, and there wasn't a bit of damage because they're all built to modern standards. So you have to put these things into context. Like a hammock. It was cooler than that. I don't even know how to describe it, but it was awesome. I was saying, this could lull you. I mean, what if it just grows and grows and grows and everything goes violent? But in that moment, it was awesome. I was in Mike's place. So you were just on the second floor. Yeah, there was one, I don't know if it's a swaying one. There was one, I think, prior to that by a couple days. There was over in Chaco, over on the coast. And that one I felt, sort of good. It wasn't bad, but it seems, based on what has been said, there are not any huge concerns with proximity to Venezuela in Bucaramanga. They control it. Yeah, so thanks for bringing that up. That was your other question. Outside of having a lot of Venezuelans live there, like in most of Colombia, no, it's not. It's not next. You look on the map and it looks like it's next to places there's problems. They're not that far away where there's issues, but it's Bucaramanga is well protected. Let's put it that way. It's a big city. You're gonna see crime there, like any city, but it's nothing out of the ordinary. It doesn't have like this big crime rate. Felt it all right in Southern California, where I used to live. Was running out of my house a few times. Yeah, the strongest I ever felt was in California. The second strongest was in Ecuador. Okay, that's it. We're going to end it here. We went through everything we could today, and it still went over an hour. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for the contributions. Nicholas, Howard, Jerry. Sure. And Yuka, of course. I thought there was another one. I couldn't remember the name. I'll see you next week. Ciao.
Oh.